100,000 years ago, a small group of humans sat beside a fire. The night was cold. The forest beyond the light was completely dark. Children slept close to their mothers. Hunters quietly repaired their stone spears. No one spoke. The only sounds were crackling flames and insects hidden in the grass. Then, something moved between the trees. A branch snapped. Every head turned. One woman suddenly pointed into the darkness. Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened. A sharp sound escaped. Not a word. Not a sentence. Just fear made audible. And somehow, everyone understood. The hunters grabbed their spears. The children were pulled closer to the fire. The entire group prepared to defend itself. Nothing had been explained. No complete sentence had been spoken. Yet one sound, one gesture, had changed everyone's behavior. That simple moment may have changed human history forever. Before humans could speak, they could still communicate. Faces carried meaning. Hands gave directions. Eyes warned of danger. Voices expressed fear, pain, excitement, and relief. Communication existed long before language. But communication and language are not the same thing. A wolf growls when threatened. A bird gives a warning call when a hawk appears overhead. Chimpanzees produce different cries for different predators. Even bees perform dances that tell others where food can be found. Animals communicate constantly, yet human language crossed a completely different boundary. It moved from signals to symbols. A signal is directly connected to what it means. A scream expresses fear. A growl expresses aggression. A cry reveals pain. The sound itself is part of the emotion, but a word is different. The word fire is not hot. The word water is not wet. The word mammoth contains no tusks. They are only sounds. Yet when two people agree that those sounds represent ideas, something extraordinary happens. An invisible bridge appears between two minds. One person imagines something, makes a sound, and another person understands exactly what was imagined. No other known species can do this on the same level. Every word you have ever spoken, every conversation, every story, depends on this invisible agreement. Language is, in many ways, a shared illusion. It exists only because millions of people agree that certain sounds carry certain meanings. But how did our ancestors make that impossible leap? How did meaningless sounds become shared ideas? Scientists have searched for the answer for generations. Unfortunately, language leaves no fossils. Stone tools survive. Bones survive. Campfires survive. Cave paintings survive. Words disappear the instant they are spoken. No archaeologist will ever uncover humanity's first conversation. No fossil preserves the first joke. No skeleton remembers the first promise. So researchers must investigate language like detectives solving an ancient mystery. Instead of studying words directly, they examine skulls, genes, throat bones, ancient tools, cave art, and the behavior of our closest living relatives. Each clue reveals only part of the story. Together, they slowly reveal how language may have begun. Two major ideas dominate the debate. The first is called the continuity hypothesis. According to this theory, language evolved slowly. Our ancestors did not suddenly wake up speaking complete sentences. Instead, they began with simple warning calls, food calls, fear calls, contact calls, emotional sounds. Over thousands of generations, those sounds became more controlled, more consistent, more meaningful. A warning no longer meant only danger. It could distinguish between a lion, a snake, or a rival group approaching from the hills. Gestures became more deliberate. Facial expressions became more precise. Gradually, simple signals became symbols. Symbols became words. Words became short sentences. Language grew little by little, across countless generations. Supporters often point toward chimpanzees and bonobos. These animals can learn symbols. They can associate signs with objects. Some can even combine simple ideas. Their abilities remain extremely limited compared with ours, but they may resemble the first tiny steps taken by our own ancestors long ago. The second theory tells a far more dramatic story. It is called the discontinuity hypothesis. According to this view, language did not simply grow. Something extraordinary happened. Perhaps a genetic mutation, perhaps a new connection inside the brain, perhaps a sudden leap in human cognition. Somewhere between 100,000 and 50,000 years ago, our ancestors may have crossed a critical threshold. Instead of producing isolated words, they suddenly gained the ability to build complex sentences. Not simply, lion, but The lion near the river may return tomorrow. That difference changed everything. Humans could now discuss the future, the past, possibilities, plans, even imaginary things that had never existed before. Whether this transformation happened suddenly or gradually remains one of the greatest mysteries in human evolution. Most researchers suspect the truth lies somewhere between both theories. The body changed slowly. The brain became more powerful. Human societies became larger. Social life became increasingly complicated. Eventually, all the necessary pieces came together. Because language is not only a mental ability, it is also physical. One of the most important changes happened inside the throat. Humans have a much lower larynx than most mammals. The larynx, often called the voice box, creates the sounds we use for speech. Its lower position gives us a much larger resonating chamber that allows us to produce hundreds of different vowels and consonants with remarkable precision. Most mammals cannot do this, but evolution demanded a strange price. Humans choke far more easily than almost every other animal. Food and air share the same narrow passage. Every year, people die because something blocks their airway. Evolution rarely accepts such dangerous compromises unless the reward is enormous. Being able to shout, run, fire, behind you, or don't go there, may have saved far more lives than choking ever took. Scientists cannot examine ancient soft tissue. It disappears long before fossils form. But one tiny bone often survives, the hyoid bone. This small, U-shaped bone supports many of the muscles used during speech. In 1989, researchers discovered a remarkably modern-looking hyoid bone belonging to a Neanderthal. It was about 60,000 years old. Its shape was almost identical to our own. That discovery surprised many scientists. Neanderthals may have looked different. They were shorter, more muscular, more heavily built, but physically, they may have possessed the ability to speak much like we do. Then genetics provided another remarkable clue. Scientists identified a gene called FOXP2. It is often nicknamed the language gene. The nickname is misleading. No single gene creates language, but FOXP2 helps coordinate the precise movements needed for speech. People with damaged versions of this gene often struggle to pronounce words clearly and process grammar correctly. Even more surprising, Neanderthals carried the same important FOXP2 mutations found in modern humans. That means many of the biological foundations for language may already have existed more than 400,000 years ago. Long before farming, long before cities, long before writing, our ancestors may already have possessed much of the machinery needed to speak. But having the ability to speak does not explain what they actually said. What was humanity's first word? Was it a warning? A name? A call for food? A cry for help? No one knows. But scientists have proposed several fascinating possibilities. Some sound surprisingly reasonable, others sound almost humorous. Yet each may contain a small piece of the answer. One popular idea is known as the bow wow theory. According to this proposal, the first words came from imitation. Ancient humans listened carefully to the world around them. Birds sang, wolves howled, water rushed through rivers, thunder rolled across the sky. Gradually, people began copying those sounds. Many languages still contain words like buzz, splash, hiss, and cuckoo. Perhaps humanity's earliest vocabulary began exactly this way. Another explanation is called the poo-poo theory. Despite its unusual name, it suggests something deeply human. The first words may have grown from emotional cries: pain, fear, joy, surprise. The sounds people made naturally slowly became intentional. Instead of simply expressing emotion, they began communicating information. Then came the yo-he-ho theory. Imagine several hunters dragging a mammoth across rough ground. If everyone pulled at different times, the effort failed. But if someone shouted a rhythm, everyone pulled together. Heave, heave, heave. The work suddenly became easier. Perhaps language first evolved not for conversation, but for cooperation. Another proposal is called the ta-ta theory. Instead of beginning with voices, language may have begun with hands, pointing, waving, beckoning. Our ancestors communicated with gestures long before they mastered speech. Eventually, the mouth may have copied what the hands were already doing. None of these theories completely explains language, but together they suggest something important. Language probably did not appear because of one single breakthrough. It emerged from many small changes working together. The body changed, the brain changed, human groups became larger, Knowledge became more valuable. Eventually, language became unavoidable. But perhaps the most important question is not how, it is why. Why did humans need language badly enough that evolution accepted the danger of choking? The answer may be surprisingly simple. Survival. Imagine trying to organize a mammoth hunt using only gestures. Some hunters hide behind rocks. Others wait in tall grass. The mammoth suddenly changes direction. One hunter cannot see another. A silent signal is no longer enough. One shout can save the entire hunt. Language allowed warnings to travel farther than eyesight. It allowed people to coordinate without standing side by side. More importantly, it allowed plans to exist before action. Tomorrow, next winter, the valley beyond the river, the herd that usually returns every spring. For the first time, humans could discuss things that were not directly in front of them. That ability transformed survival itself. But survival may not have been the only force driving language. British anthropologist Robin Dunbar proposed another remarkable idea. Among chimpanzees, friends strengthen relationships by grooming one another, cleaning fur, removing insects, building trust. But grooming has limits. One chimpanzee can groom only one companion at a time. As human groups became larger, that system no longer worked. Language became a new form of social bonding. Instead of grooming one individual, one speaker could strengthen relationships with an entire group. Stories replaced grooming. Conversation created trust. According to Dunbar, gossip became one of humanity's greatest inventions. Today, gossip often sounds unimportant. But in prehistoric life, it could mean survival. Who shared food? Who refused to help? Who stole from others? Who could be trusted during a dangerous hunt? Knowing these things made cooperation far easier. Language became the invisible thread holding growing communities together. Alongside language, another extraordinary ability emerged. Psychologists call it theory of mind. It is the realization that other people have thoughts different from your own. Once humans understood this, they could deliberately change another person's knowledge using words. Ideas could move from one brain to another. Knowledge no longer disappeared when one person died. Parents taught children. Children taught grandchildren. Every generation inherited what the previous one had already learned. Scientists call this cumulative culture. Instead of beginning from nothing, each generation started a little farther ahead. A better spear, a stronger shelter, a smarter hunting strategy. A se fait en migration route. Thousands of tiny improvements accumulated over countless generations. Around 70,000 years ago, the archaeological record begins changing dramatically. Stone tools become more sophisticated. Long-distance trade appears. Personal ornaments become common. Cave paintings spread. Musical instruments emerge. Whether this happens suddenly or gradually is still debated. But one fact is difficult to ignore. Ideas were now traveling farther than ever before. Language allowed imagination itself to move between minds. A hunter could describe an animal another person had never seen. An elder could explain a distant valley without anyone visiting it. A parent could warn a child about dangers that had not yet happened. Knowledge was no longer trapped inside individual experience. Some linguists even believe every modern language shares the same basic mental foundation. Noam Chomsky called this universal grammar. Children everywhere learn language with astonishing speed. Different words, different sounds, different grammar, yet they develop in remarkably similar ways. Whether universal grammar is exactly correct remains controversial. But almost every scientist agrees on one thing. The human brain evolved with an extraordinary capacity for language, unlike anything found elsewhere in nature. Still, we will probably never know humanity's first word. Perhaps it was fire. Perhaps run. Perhaps come. Or perhaps it was something completely different. In the end, the first word matters less than what happened next. Once one sound successfully carried one idea, human history changed forever. Every story, every promise, every law, every prayer, every scientific discovery, every language spoken across Earth today grew from that ancient beginning. So, how did ancient humans first learn to speak? Not through one miracle, not through one brilliant inventor, and not in a single generation. They observed, they copied, they experimented, they cooperated, they taught one another, and slowly, over thousands of years, simple sounds became shared symbols became language, language became knowledge, knowledge became civilization, and civilization became us. Thank you for watching Human Stories. If you enjoy exploring the forgotten lives of our prehistoric ancestors, consider subscribing. Every week, we uncover another hidden chapter of humanity's incredible journey. Because the farther we travel into humanity's past, the better we understand ourselves.